Hey, it's Gillian from Team Octagon, recapping St. George.
We just got home from St. George. We just did the half Ironman there. It was, for me, it was a great race. It was my first time doing it.
I love St. George because I love the community. I'm from Salt Lake, so it's kind of our hometown race. So many Utahns are there. And it's a really popular race. It draws people from all over, and it's always really competitive. And so it's also fun just to see friends I've made over the years in triathlon come to St. George and do that race.
Yeah, it was not the race I wanted to have. It was actually the race I was pretty nervous that was going to happen. Um, what went down was I had a really good swim. I started the swim with my teammate Brennen. We lined up together. He had a slightly faster swim than I did. I could not find his feet. I was looking for his zone 3 orange and like little tails on his legs in the water, and he was just that much ahead of me that I just never saw him. So I missed my feet in the water. But I had a good swim. I swam like a 30, which I wanted to be sub 30, and I've done before. So it was a little bit choppy out there towards the end. People were saying it was way choppier than it was, but I just felt it at the end.
Starting with the swim, it was like the perfect water temperature. It was pretty much spot on with what I've been swimming in here in San Diego when I do open water in the ocean. So I felt pretty at home there, and I was able to just kind of zone out and just swim, which I really couldn't ask for anything more, to be honest.
I was ready to go at the swim start. Got in line there with a few friends. I usually line up in kind of the low 30 spot. That's usually about what I swim. So got in there. They did only start us like 2 or 3 people every 5 seconds instead of 5, like it's been at a lot of other races the last couple years, which I thought was a little strange. It was really spread out. I think it took them a little longer to get people in the water, but I think they were just really aware of safety in the swim, which is fine. Like the swim felt completely safe. So I got in the water, felt really good in the water. I think the water temp was around 62, which is about perfect in a wetsuit. Felt really good swimming, felt like I got on some good feet and was keeping a decent pace. Those zone 3 wetsuits that we have feel awesome. Like your shoulders never get that burning feeling. I've gotten that before sometimes with other wetsuits that I've worn in the past, where your shoulders kind of start to burn or ache till you kind of like loosen things up. But these wetsuits feel great. Anyway, I got in a pretty good rhythm, was feeling good, was having a good morning. Got out of the water. It was maybe like minutes or 2 slower than I wanted, but mostly it was a good swim and I felt good. So ran out. They had wetsuit strippers, which is awesome. Was running. T1 sometimes is actually kind of one of the more difficult places of the race for me, because with my runner's dystonia, if my foot is cold, like getting out of the water, my foot cramps up a lot. So I actually, once I got to the parking lot of part of T1, I started running backwards. It wasn't very crowded at the time, so it was okay, but people probably wondered what I was doing. But I can run easier backwards sometimes than forwards. So I was running, and there was nothing to trip on. So I was running backwards to my bike, but that worked out just fine. Got to my bike, got there quickly, grabbed my stuff. So it does cost me a couple extra minutes in T1 because I am a little slower getting to my bike, and then running in clips bike shoes is really difficult with my dystonia too. So a little slower there, but it's okay.
Came out of the water, feeling pretty good. Hopped on the bike and smashed a caffeine gel, and it was just like game on from there. I bet if you had like a close-up camera of my eyes after I take the caffeine gel, you see my pupils dilate and just ding. But that's always a good way to get going.
Got out of the water, had a pretty good transition, got on the bike, dropped my chain on the bike at the first turnaround. I don't know how that happened, but dropped my chain. Took me like a couple seconds, got it back on. I did not change it as I was moving. While I've done that before, not with my hands, I was not able to do it this time. Then yeah, the bike was good. I felt good. Felt like I could push power that I wanted to. My net power or normalized power, was one of the best that I've had in a 70.3. So I was happy with that. Had a good climb up Snow Canyon, descended like crazy. The Ventum held those winds like nothing else. And it was actually a really nice day. We didn't get a ton of crosswinds, so you know, could have been better for those of us on that bike, because other people would have been, holding on for dear life.
Got on my bike and got going. Man, the bike felt great. Like there wasn't a lot of wind, like I said. Maybe spreading out the swimmers as well. Like the bike course never felt crowded or anything like that. It was really great. It's one of my favorite bike courses. If you haven't been to St. George, or if you've never done the St. George course, the bike course is one of the prettiest bike courses you'll ever do. There's these red rocks everywhere. It's a good challenging ride. You get lots of great climbs, but you also get really good descents. Like the payoff is good. So even though there's quite a bit of climbing, you get some really good descents. So you can gain some speed there. And like around mile 40-ish, you get to climb Snow Canyon, which is one of my very favorite places on earth. It's so beautiful. It's like nothing else. So you get to climb Snow Canyon. It's challenging. It gets tough there, but I love it. And you're getting close to the end. And once you get to the top of Snow Canyon, you get a great descent into T2. So I was staying on top of my hydration and nutrition. Felt like everything was going well. My watts were good. My overall split was like a hair slower than I thought it would be, but my watts were good and I was feeling good, and I feel like it was descending super fast. Those Ventums are really good descending, and like you don't feel any wind if there's any of that, especially with like the NV wheels and that bike setup. But it was great. I even like on some of the descents, I even passed a few guys, which that never happens to me. I'm a small rider, so I don't usually descend past guys, but it was really fun. Super fun bike. Was really proud of the effort I put in.
But yeah, I make it out of like the reservoir area. We go up the hill and then that long descent down. I was riding with one other guy and we were just ripping that downhill. It was quite terrifying, but I didn't crash, so that's great. The rest of the bike ride was just pretty straightforward. I was chugging water and just hammering gels because I knew the run was going to be hot and I wasn't sure how much I'd be able to eat or drink on the run. So I was like, I might as well just try to get as much in me as I can now. So I felt really good the whole way, except for like the flat bit before you turn into Snow Canyon. For some reason, I just got a little bit uncomfortable. Maybe there was some crosswind or something. I don't know what it was, but I was like, please just get me to Snow Canyon. And as soon as I got there, it was fine. Paced it really well. The descent out of Snow Canyon was super fun, headwind, and I was pretty much by myself, so that was a bummer, but it was fun nonetheless. Stayed in Arrow. The Ventum was just ripping it, and I was a little bit terrified, but it was still very fun. Came into transition, feeling pretty good on the run. I think I started the run in 5th place in my age group, and I just kind of wanted to hang on to 5th if I could.
And then got off the bike, got into transition, and was about a mile into the run, not even a mile. Like as soon as I started running, I was like, this doesn't feel good. Got up the hill, was like going up diagonal, and I'm like, just get to where it's flattish. And so diagonal kind of flattens out. You go up Main Street, it's a pretty good hill, and then it flattens out a little bit on diagonal. And yeah, I got to the first aid station and I popped some ibuprofen. And as soon as I started walking to do that, I was like, it hurts a lot, like sharp pain, hurts a lot to just walk. And I saw my friend Lise, my teammate Lise, on the side of the road, and I gave her a big hug and told her, she ran over to me and was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, not. And she agreed that it would just stop my A race. It's not worth it. So decided to pull the plug, which was really hard. A lot of tears. It's my first time not finishing a race since 2011. It was a local 70.3, and I found out that I had a tibial fraction after I stopped that race. So got a pretty good track record. As I told the really nice couple that was driving me away in the golf cart, they're like, how many of these Ironman races have you done? I'm like, way more than I've not finished. So, but it was good. It was a good learning experience. I had a MRI on Monday, and I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And the good news is that my labrum tear, which is what I was nervous about, that I tore back in August, is no worse than where it was in August. So like it's apples to apples right now. We're like very much where we previously were, which is a relief. And so I just had a massage tonight, and feel really good. I feel like I'm actually like kind of piecing together how this actually happened. Had some good feedback from him. Doctor had some really good feedback. I saw my doctor up in Park City. And yeah, I'm going to go back in and see my PT coming up soon and just keep things humming along. I did some strength in the basement this morning, and yeah, that's where I'm at. So rebuild and on to the next. The next thing I'm registered for is Oregon 70.3. But we'll see if I jump into some local races and some things to kind of test it out beforehand. So thanks for following along, and thanks for all the support. Everyone's been super, super supportive, and just really appreciate all the really awesome messages that I've gotten, just, thinking about me, or like wondering like why I didn't finish, or just, after my post came out, just some really awesome words of encouragement. So, yeah, thanks again.
So anyways, I was feeling good. As far as my nutrition goes, my stomach felt good. My energy felt good. However, with runner's dystonia, like my foot is always kind of a gamble. I've had races where I felt decent and had pretty good runs, and I've had races where it's just not gone so well. And my foot started hurting from the first mile, which lots of times I start to run and the first couple miles don't feel fabulous. So sometimes I just have to run through it, like just suck it up for a couple miles and it will kind of get better. So I didn't freak out too much that the first couple miles didn't feel good, because that happens a lot. Lots of times it kind of warms up and gets going. Well, by mile 3, it was still hurting. It was hurting really bad because there's so much friction in my shoe. Basically the whole side of my foot was a blister, and it was just hurting from the twisting of my foot, which also causes like knee pain and glute and hamstring pain, and on my other leg as I'm compensating. So I was in so much pain, and I really wanted to stop, and I really thought about it because it was super painful, and also I don't want to create a new injury. But I decided to just push through till it at least started to go downhill a little bit through the golf course, and it did start to feel a little better. So I was hopeful that I feel a little better the second loop, but it didn't. It kept hurting, but I decided I just had to push through and finish, and I had to see it through. So it was one of my slowest run splits, but I got it done. I was really grateful to see that finish line and realize that you can't ever take any finish line for granted. Like, even though we get to a point, if you've been doing this for years, I've been in triathlon for over 15 years, and sometimes you kind of take those finish lines for granted that, well, I've done all the fitness, I know I can get there. You're not questioning whether or not you can finish. But you never know what's going to happen, and never take a finish line for granted, for sure. So I was really grateful to see that finish line. It hurt all the way to the finish line. I basically had tears at the finish line because I was in a lot of pain. Had a giant bruise on my other leg because my foot kind of kicks my other leg sometimes as I run. So it's just basically for 13 miles kind of kicking my other leg because it's wonky. I was struggling that last loop through the the golf course, I was telling people I was kind of running like Phoebe from Friends, if you've seen that, where Rachel doesn't want to run with her because she looks like she's running really weird. That's sometimes what I look like when I'm running. So people probably wondered what I was doing, but sometimes that's just what it takes to get across the finish line. It doesn't look normal always for me.
I told myself if I could hold on to 5th for the run, I'd be happy. And I should mention at the start of the race, all I wanted to do was to just be able to empty my tank, because I feel like I haven't really emptied my tank in a race in quite a while. So went up that first run out of transition. You go up that steep hill up to the circle, and then you turn, and it's kind of that long straightaway. Was fine. I was just trying to get into my rhythm, but it was quite difficult to get into a rhythm when it's either up or down. So it was a really fun course, and I think it felt like it went by pretty quickly because of how many different things there are. And I was a little bit worried about the grass or the golf course, but that turned out to be just fine. And then my teammate Lise, who unfortunately couldn't race because she was sick, still showed up to the race and was giving me splits. And on the second lap, on my way back into town, she told me that I was 2 minutes down on 4th, and I was running about a minute per mile faster. So when she told me that, I was like, holy smokes, okay, I really need to like pedal to the metal. So I emptied it. I friggin', on the way back into town on those downhills, I was just knees up and just trying to grind it out. And I sure emptied the tank, but I ended up snatching 4th in my age group by 4 seconds. So I was very happy. And then on top of that, overall amateurs, I came in 9th. So I think that's my best finish to date in an Ironman branded event. So I'm really happy about it. As you can see from my smile, I can't stop smiling when I talk about it.
So I was hoping to go there and make it onto the podium, and I came up a little short. I ended up in 8th place, but I did get offered a spot to the 70.3 World Championship in New Zealand. However, I decided not to take it. Not sure if my body is up to it. It's also a tough time to go, kind of for family reasons, and you know, I have 5 kids and they're always going 20 places. So I guess it was successful in that sense. Came in top 10, got offered a 70.3 world spot to New Zealand, and was able to finish.
So I'm very happy. I couldn't ask for much more. And really glad I got a chance to meet the Envy and the Precision guys at the race before and after. So it was really cool seeing them and thanking them for their support. So that's all I got.